Hello and welcome back to These Blind Eyes 6580. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be me sitting and ranting about stuff that I believe in or whatever. It's actually going to be making tomato juice, and I'm going to be doing so out of an abundance of cherry tomatoes we got out of our garden. You can do a lot of things with it. Cook it down and make soup, that or make your own V8 juice out of it. It's just we have so many cherry tomatoes, we can't give them all away, and we can't eat them all, can't even come close, so I just hate to see them go to waste. So I'm going to make some juice out of it and then decide what we're going to do with it later. So stick with me and we'll get to it. Button. Okay, this is the pot of cherry tomatoes that I have. For those friends of mine who might be watching who cannot see very well or who are completely blind, the pot is big enough you could cook a meal for 4 to 6 people in. Or for those of you who remember what a fat bastard I am, it is what I would cook food in to pack a picnic basket for myself. It's a good sized pot, and it is completely full of cherry tomatoes. So I will come back when I get this cooked down, and I will show you how to get the juice out of the rest of the cherry tomatoes, whatever doesn't cook out of the cherry tomatoes. So I'll be back. Alright, so I've been cooking it down. It's probably been about 15-20 minutes or so. You just want to do it until they're popped, basically. So as you can see, these have popped pretty damn good. So I'm going to be moving my station over to the counter to where I can start to actually get all the juice out of the skins and meat of these tomatoes. Okay, so what I'm going to be using to get the juice out is an old school food mill. It's got a handle on it, it's cone shaped, and it allows juice to get out without anything else getting out. I'm sure a seed or two can make it through, but not a whole lot. I've also got 2 pestles that I'm going to use that is used for basically pulverizing dehydrated vegetables or fruit, whatever, to make it into powder. In theory, when you're done with this, you can take the leftover skins and meat and put it in a dehydrator and then turn it into powder, and then later on you could use it to make tomato paste or use it in other cooking things. Now this particular pestle, for those who can't see, if you don't know what it is, it's probably 6 to 8 inches long, about 1 inch in diameter. It's a piece of wood. This particular one is flat on the bottom. I have another one that it's a little smaller, but it's cone shaped at the bottom. And so I prefer using the bigger one at first, but then since my food mill is cone shaped, if you hold it upside down, it almost looks like a party hat, only it's rounded instead of pointed, you know. So I use the cone-shaped pestle in the bottom of the food mill to make sure I can get the stuff in the bottom. So basically what I'm going to do is take and scoop this tomato stuff into this food mill. And when you're doing this, you have to be careful because it will work up the sides and can fall out, and then you'd have to start over because you'd end up with meat inside your juice. So I'm doing this in a bowl. I'm holding this over a bowl. And then I basically put the end of the pestle in the bottom and rotate around. Rotate it around the edges. And what it's doing is it's squeezing all the juice out into the bowl, and it's leaving the meat and the skin inside the food mill. Now, every now and then you have to make sure that it's getting pushed back down so it don't get worked up the sides. you also end up with it working up the pestle, the meat and skin does. So occasionally you might have to push the meat and skin back down off of it. But then when think I've got it fairly good off of here, I will pull the pestle out, getting as much of the stuff off of it. If you need a place to put it down, you don't want to let it sit on the counter, you can put it back in the bowl or the pot where your tomatoes are sitting. You don't want to put it in the juice because the meat can fall off of it into the juice. Now I'm using the cone shaped to get the stuff in the very bottom. When you know it's done, it's real soupy inside the pot. It's real soupy inside the pot. And then when you know it's done is basically it's still going to be wet inside this food mill. However, it's a mush. It's not runny at all. These tomatoes are more of an heirloom. They're a lot meatier than some of your genetically modified tomatoes. So the juice can be thicker. So use your hand to wipe off the outside to get it down in the bowl. Then I have another bowl over here that I'm dumping this mush into, just in case we decide to save it, dehydrate it, and use it for something else. So I got that in there. So I'm going back to the... Alright, two things. The first thing is I ended up switching to a ladle instead of the slotted spoon once I started getting down, because obviously you're not going to be pulling the juice out of the pot with a slotted spoon, even though you will be getting juice out of the meat and skins. Second thing is you get down so far, you can't get the stuff out, and you're going to have to pour what's left over into the food mill. So I ended up, to make it easier on myself, poured it out of that big ass pot, what was left, into this white bowl, and it's a lot more manageable. And now I can dump her on in. Another thing to be careful of when you're doing something like this, as you can see, my bowl's starting to get pretty full of juice. So, that being said, when you get started, it's better to use a bowl that's too big than have to get another bowl out. But this is the last batch. And the thing is, with the pestle, you don't just have to, it's not like you have to just rotate it clockwise. You go clockwise, counterclockwise, however you got to do it. What works best for you and whatever you got to do it. So I am just about done with this, and then I am going to be putting this stuff into jars. I don't know how well you can hear that squishiness, but that pretty much means this is about toast. So, going to get my pestle cleaned off into the mill, just so I'm not slinging the tomato meat anywhere. Put that off into the bowl, and then dump the meat into the meat bowl. Like I said, now if I was going to dehydrate this, and I'm going to tell you something, this is the first time I have done this process myself. So whether you can or can't see if it looks like a pain in the ass, it can be a little time consuming, but this is the first time I have done it, and I can't see a damn thing. So you just got to know how your station's set up with which bowl's which, so you're putting stuff into the right bowls and go on about your business that way. But now, next thing is, as you can see, that bowl's pretty full. I've got a ladle that is 8 ounces, and I've got a couple jars that I have washed. I doubt we can this. However, I am putting it in the jars just to store it until we decide what in the heck we're going to do with it. I have a 16-ounce ladle as well, but this bowl I don't think is necessarily deep enough to make that efficient, so go with the 8-ounce. You are going to get a little bit of splatter here and there. A little bit of spillage. You'll have that. Just try not to spill too much. Slower you pour, better off you're going to be. Can't even really see what's in the jar, so here in a minute I'm gonna go ahead and take the funnel out and check. I got a little bit of room left in there. People who can't see usually stick their finger in it, and since, well, hopefully you're smart enough to wash your hands if you're dealing with food, especially food for storage, so. I'm getting close, but I'm not 100% how close, so I'm just going to go ahead and go with the next jar. Let's see here, from the sounds of it, yep, that one's full. And what do you know, it was 4 8-ounce scoops filled up my quart. Just wondering how accurate that thing would be. Seems pretty accurate, so I'm going to go ahead and try to top off this other end. Now it's topped off, so I got those topped off. I got more left in my bowl than I need to get in a jar. I didn't wash 3 jars. I didn't realize I was going to end up with more than 2 quarts of juice. But I'm not going to make you watch me wash another jar and get all that straightened up. But just to let you see, this is all the meat in this little bowl here. So I would use my hands with the dehydrator again because I can't see what I'm doing. So it'll give you a better idea if you're using your hands. If you can't see how thick you're getting it, I'd maybe say 1/4 of an inch thick on the trays. Dehydrate that stuff until it's dry and it can be busted up. But that is essentially what you got going on with making tomato juice. Now, like I said, you can take it and you can cook it down and make soup. You can make V8 juice out of it. You can do whatever you want with it. But I did not want to see all those cherry tomatoes going to waste. So I thought it was worth. And like I said, I just got way more than I thought. I mean, there's 2 quarts there, and there's more in this bowl that come close to filling up a pint. So that's what it is. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you shared the video. I hope you subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions for me, you can email me directly at littlemb6580@gmail.com. That's LITTLE, M as in Mike, B as in Bravo, 6580@gmail.com.